What is up there, everybody? Sea of Red Sports here with yet another top 10 ranking video. We have a special guest on today. He is a Miami Hurricanes fan. His name's David. I want to welcome you, sir, to the show.
Hello, guys.
So, he will be joining me today for our ranking videos, and we will be just talking about rankings here. And I'm going to pull up our first 4 rankings here. And you can see that they're very similar because I think at this point the top 4 teams are fairly obvious. Maybe there's 1 or 2 other teams who could argue for position there. But really it's going to be Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame. We just had them in slightly different orders. We both have Bama 1, Clemson 4, and then we have Notre Dame and Ohio State swapped. I am a little bit higher on Ohio State because I do think that they are essentially at this point guaranteed to make the playoffs. And Notre Dame, I think you put Notre Dame at number 2 because you're essentially giving them credit for the Clemson win, if I'm correct on that. Uiagalelei, he is a stud of a quarterback, and he is just, I really like his personality. He just can't get fazed by anything, and that's the kind of quarterback that can end up winning you championships. He won't get scared by another team. He won't get intimidated. This guy is going to win a national championship at some point while playing for Clemson. Probably won't be this year. I mean, it could be. But I really like this kid's future. As a true freshman, he's very obviously the best true freshman in all college football. And then, what I really like about Clemson, I mean, not Clemson, but Notre Dame, why I jumped them up to 3, is because I finally saw out of Ian Book what I wanted to see out of him, and that is a quarterback who's actually competent. This guy also really has a similar demeanor to that Uiagalelei, where he just isn't fazed by anything. So you're seeing 2 quarterbacks who they play different styles. Obviously, Ian Book's a little bit more, he likes the short routes and he likes the run game a lot. But he is also very calm and collected. He did not get fazed at all by the Clemson defense. He played a really solid game. And really the only reason right now why I have Notre Dame ranked above Clemson, other than the fact that they won in a really epic game. I recommend if you guys have time, go watch a highlight reel of that game. It's really good. But the other reason why I have Notre Dame ahead of Clemson right now is because Clemson is really banged up right now. Obviously Trevor Lawrence is out because of the virus. He should be back next week. But they also have, I think it's now 6 or 7 defensive players out because of injuries. And that really weakens your defensive front, which has been a strong point for Clemson for the last 5 years. Continues to be, but they just got beat by a really good, legit Notre Dame team. So right now, I was considering ranking Clemson below Notre Dame. Anyway, you probably saw in the last week's video, I had these teams flipped: Clemson 3, Notre Dame 4. But both these teams could make it to playoff, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I kind of lost my train of thought there for a bit, but yeah, Clemson a bit banged up, and therefore they dropped a couple spots for me. And they had been dropping a couple weeks, so I saw some things I didn't like, particularly how Travis Etienne was turning the ball over, and I mentioned that, and I think it was 2 weeks ago. And what'd you do it? He has another turnover in this game. I wonder who saw that one coming. But yeah, so far I've been spot on with my upset predictions, and with that being said, we'll move on to our 5 and 6 team. You have Cincinnati at 5, Florida at 6. I have those flipped. I was really impressed with Florida in the win against Georgia. They are a legit top 5 team to me. They look like a team that could beat almost any team out there. I think they would struggle against Ohio State and Alabama, but I think offensively, what they are doing is really amazing. And we've talked about Cincinnati a lot, but if you want, you can explain your ranking for number 5 Cincinnati and number 6 Florida. As obviously, you'll take a slightly different perspective on this compared to maybe some of the other people I'm putting on.
Yeah, I will. The reason why I put Cincinnati at 5 is that they've just impressed me all year. Like, against Houston and SMU on the road, wow. Like, they just blow these guys out, and both of these are really good teams. And when they do it like that, I mean, wow. Yeah, you're definitely going to get a top 10 ranking for that. And you're top 5 for that, in my book. Yeah, don't get me wrong, your playoff hopes are probably ruined by Clemson and Notre Dame, but at this point, just win, baby. You could still make the playoffs. I mean, hey, crazier things have happened before, and if Cincinnati had the chance, I'd be considering this team for the Big Ten. And yeah, and for Florida, to be honest, they did beat Georgia, and even though Georgia has fallen off the cliff, they still are rising really well. And yeah, I mean, Georgia's not a bad team, but their QB problem just needs to be solved. Georgia fans are going to regret, and specifically you, Kirby Smart, are going to regret getting rid of Justin Fields.
Yeah. I've watched several videos. I think the entire Georgia fan base really regrets losing Justin Fields. And the fact is, if Georgia was properly using a quarterback, we'd probably be talking about Georgia making a playoff. That's just how good the rest of the team is.
Yeah.
But they've just missing that one key central position. And you'll see in both our rankings, we have dropped Georgia a good bit. I haven't dropped Georgia as far as most because I think Georgia is just more physical than almost every other team in the country, meaning they could beat most of the teams in the country. But there's, as I think I mentioned before, there's maybe 5-6 teams that could beat them. Florida is one of them because they have an offense that can get through the Georgia defense. And their defense is just good enough to stop the Georgia offense, which is pitiful. And I really was impressed by Florida a bit more because I saw Florida's defense really show up. And that's really what I wanted to know. Is that defense actually going to show up at some point? Because if it doesn't, they're not going to beat any legit teams. But last week against Missouri, you saw it show up. And then this week again against Georgia, saw their defense show up. This Florida team can compete with Alabama. That's just at the level that they are right now. Obviously, they haven't beaten Alabama yet. But in about 6 weeks, they'll get the chance to play Alabama. At this point, it's pretty much guaranteed for Florida to make the SEC title game. It is pretty much impossible for Florida to lose another game. I mean, who's going to beat them? South Carolina? No, they already played South Carolina. You think Vanderbilt's going to beat Florida? Come on, man.
They do have Tennessee. And I think Tennessee, to be honest, is worse than Vanderbilt. Tennessee is terrible. I live in Knoxville. Tennessee is terrible.
Oh, man.
I purposely go into Knoxville stores that have ball stuff in it and say the balls are trash.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh man. You guys should have picked up Greg Schiano when you had the chance.
Yeah. Now look at what he's doing with Rutgers. Yeah. My view on Florida, I very much agree with Sia Red Sports here that Florida showed up on Saturday. They got down early, but hey, they got up. Georgia wasn't fully healthy for this game. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
They didn't have Pickens. They lost all the receivers, and they still, hey. And they almost blew it at the end, but hey, they didn't. And that's what, hey, good teams find a way to win. Florida found a way to win.
Yep. Sometimes you have to grind it out, and Florida had to at the end, but they got the win. Wasn't the cleanest win. I mean, nobody was expecting that. This is the biggest cocktail party in America. You don't expect clean wins at this one, but it was a good game.
Yeah, it really was. And for Florida, good luck with Alabama. I still don't think you can compete with Alabama. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. So, we now are going to show our... Yeah, I think we'll do it. 7 through 10 teams. I have BYU 7, Indiana 8, A&M 9, Georgia 10. You have A&M 7, BYU 8, Miami 9. That might or might not be biased. And Indiana 10. I was really impressed by Texas A&M's win against South Carolina. They beat them 48-3. Really looked a lot like how LSU beat South Carolina. A really similar game plan. And Kellen Mond is finally getting into a stride. I'm actually impressed by this enough to put them in the top 10. And of course, the win they have against Florida is looking even better as the season goes on. Obviously, I'm still not as high on A&M as most people are. But I'm finally going to give them the recognition they deserve, and I put them in the top 10, finally. And you're a little bit high on them, you have them at 7. We're both high on BYU. Obviously, this team is looking amazing. And the big thing is, when you play nobody, the only thing you can do is beat them and destroy them. Which is what BYU has done with everybody except UTSA. And so, they've shown that they could play and compete with the big boys. I don't think their resume, though, is going to be good enough to make the playoffs. I think that's really going to be the only problem for them. Good enough to make a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah,
that's a conversation. I think they could be legit in a New Year's Six Bowl. But this is one of the surprise teams for this year. In my preseason top 25, said, you watch out for BYU. I didn't have them in my top 25, but I said, watch out. This team could be legit. And they have impressed me beyond all expectations. So they're one of the most surprising, positive teams. And then you have Miami at 9, another big surprise in the positive direction. You want to talk about this team and the impressive win against NC State?
Yes, I would love to. What a win. What a comeback for the Canes. I thought for sure this game was over. And, hey, okay, want to know something? I stopped watching this game in the third, late in the third. I'm like, this game's over. And, hey, we never gave up. The Eric King just kept going, and now look at where we're at. What a win.
I know, very high score game, but want to congratulate all the people who betted the over on this game. You made a lot of money.
Yeah, you all did. De'Aaron King, he had a total of 535 total yards, 430 passing, 105 rushing, and Mike Harley came out 8 receptions, 153 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good.
So they finally went to the air game. That's really been a concern for them this year.
Yeah, it has. No, realistically, though, the running game needs to go. Also, our defense is terrible, and Blake Baker needs to go as the coordinator. He knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Turnover pencil kind of going the wrong direction in that one.
Yeah, we don't have the depth on defense either, but Blake Baker being in there, his defense is not that aggressive, and they just let up a lot of points a lot, and sorry about that. And it just keeps a scare on us, you know?
Yeah. Although, at least this is an improvement for you guys. At least you guys can say that you're actually decent. You haven't been able to say that the last few years.
Yeah. For the first time in a while, Miami is actually heading in the right direction. I feel like Manny Diaz is a man for the job, and in his second year, look at what he's doing.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, I was like, well, at the end of the first year, Manny Diaz, obviously I wasn't impressed. Not very many people were impressed, but I mean, it was his first year, and it was a team that really was having some issues, but he's been able to show that he can recruit the right guys for the job. He got in a couple really key transfers, most importantly De'Aaron King, and this team's really showing up, so I really like what he's doing there.
Too.
Miami's back on the map, or they're going to be back on the map, and they're heading in the right directions. If only we can have that happen at Nebraska, then we can maybe meet in another great national championship game.
I remember going to the Miami-Nebraska game in 2015. That was good stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had a great back-to-back series there in 14-15. If I remember, we split the series. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. NC State's quarterback did not play too bad either. Bailey Hockman, the ex-Florida State transfer, 19-28, 248, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Florida State could be really using this guy right now.
Yeah. NC State is much improved this year. There's probably going to be another one of my surprise teams this year. The ACC, I could literally just put the top of my surprise for 2020. The entire ACC, better than expected.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, about time to talk about Indiana. We already talked about Georgia a little bit. I mean, I think everybody knows what the problem with Georgia is. Quarterback, everything else, it's like checked off, 10 out of 10, even better than 10 out of 10, everything at Georgia. And then you look at quarterback. Leaves a lot to be desired. Kobe. And then Indiana, wow. I really got on board the Indiana hype train after they played us. Nebraska Cornhuskers last year beat us 38-31. That's when I figured out that this Indiana team is legit. They're going to be really good. And so I jumped on the hype train for them coming into 2020. And look at what they've done. They beat Penn State in what was maybe one of the best games of the year so far, at least as far as excitement. They beat Rutgers pretty badly Rutgers team that's much improved, by the way. And then they just went out and mollywopped Michigan. So this is a team that is deserving of a top 10 spot. They are legit offensively. They also seem to be figuring out some things on defense, which is obviously one of the issues first couple weeks. And yeah, this Indiana team is legit. This is one of the strangest years in the Big Ten, because the Big Ten Power Rankings, which I also want to do a video on them. Hopefully I can finally get that video out this week. But currently, Big Ten Power Rankings look like 1, Ohio State, no surprise there. Number 2, Indiana. 3, Northwestern. 4 is Purdue? Yep, seems like 2020. Yep, seems about right. But yeah, with that being said, we're going to move to our first teams out, essentially what's our number 11 through 15. And we have some similarities here. Obviously, I have Miami at 11. Not quite as high on them as a Kane Homer fan right here. But I am still really impressed by Miami. And they could definitely come back into my top 10. They're currently just on the board of it right now. I have at number 12, Northwestern. They beat Nebraska. Now, obviously, they haven't played any great competition, as it turns out. But Northwestern is legit. The thing about Northwestern and why every so often they surprise is Pat Fitzgerald teaches simple football, and the team just generally doesn't make many mistakes. Except in this game, they had 14 penalties, which was the same as Nebraska, but Nebraska's penalties were much more costly. Northwestern tends to play fairly simple, sound defense, and really, if you want to beat them, you have to be more physical, or you have to not make as many mistakes, which is obviously very difficult to do, as we've seen in 2020 and generally in years past. So this Northwestern team right now is on track. They are currently in the driver's seat to make it to the Big Ten title game, which is not what I was expecting, but massively improved. And then we both have Oklahoma State and Oregon in here. Do you want to talk about what we think about Oregon State? Oregon State. No, they're not even close.
Oklahoma State and Oregon.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead with that one.
Oklahoma State. Wow, I thought y'all for sure were going to lose to Kansas State. Kansas State isn't bad this year, and yeah, don't get me wrong, it was a very sloppy game, and Shoba Hubbard has definitely very much disappointed me this year. He is not the best running back in the country, and I'm not sure if y'all went out. Y'all still have to play Boomer Sooner. Red River Aviation, shout out to you. And yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if y'all could survive. I mean, your quarterback, Oklahoma State is one of those teams that is very inconsistent. Like, they'll come out and be fine and then like lose to Texas. And then for Oregon just did not impress me. Like, something about this team, it was like, huh? It was like, Oregon.
Yeah, I had a bad feeling when I was watching games. I was like, these guys are destroying Stanford, but yet something still doesn't feel right here.
Yeah.
And also, the game was really interesting because I believe Stanford actually put down more yards offensively. I don't know if you want to check that.
Yeah, I'll check that.
But they were able to move down the field at will. But the problem is their kicker was unable to kick a single field goal. He missed 4 field goals, which is really bad. And Oregon also missed a field goal, so it was basically the day of missing field goals.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Stanford won. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Oregon had more yards. They had 227 versus 210. So it was pretty close. But still not a good day really for either offense. Oregon's defense though does seem to be decent. Obviously it's week 1, so they're going to improve. So as far as a week 1 defense, they look to be one of the better week 1 defenses. So I like what I'm seeing there. But this, I don't know exactly how to put my finger on it. But they are just, watching this Oregon team, I get a bad feeling about them. I still think they're going to probably make the Pac-12 title game, but I don't think they're going to playoff or anything like that. Then do you want to talk about Coastal Carolina? And then I'll explain why I put them out for this week.
Coastal Carolina, yeah, I'll talk about them. They beat up on South Alabama 23-6. And once again, I mean, they just looked dominating and impressive. I mean, Coastal Carolina is 15th in the nation, the highest a Sun Belt team has ever been. And I look at this team and I'm like, wow. They're really good, and they might as well just get better, because I feel like Coastal Carolina is going in the right direction. And what's funny is that they're the only undefeated team left in South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's literally only 4 G5 teams left that are undefeated that are meaningful. BYU, Cincinnati, Coastal, and Liberty. I think there are a couple of teams in the MAC and Mountain West that are still undefeated, but those really don't matter.
Yeah.
So that being said, I'll explain why I have Liberty in my top 15 instead of Coastal. And that's because I think Liberty right now has the better win with 2 Power 5 wins. They had a really good win this weekend against Virginia Tech. And I think they beat Syracuse earlier in the year. I don't remember. There was some other ACC team. But they've looked really good as well. And this is a team. I'll just give you an idea of how bad they have been in previous years. Last year, they played and won their first bowl game. That's right, they had never made it to 6 wins in program history before, or if they had lost that bowl game. So they've never won 7 games in the entire history. And they've now literally just done it within the first 7 weeks of the season. Obviously, the fact that schedule so far hasn't been that good has helped, but the fact is, if they go undefeated this year, they will have an excellent resume. They will have beaten, I think it was Syracuse, they will beat Virginia Tech, and the last game of the season for them is Coastal Carolina. So they will have an excellent resume for a Group of 5 team, and they will actually have a conversation to say about making it to a New Year's 6 game. I know, this is a Sunday school that is doing this. It's not a football team.
Sunday school.
Yeah, that is literally what they are known for. Anyway, they're known for sending people to ministry, and they also have what's apparently a really good business and law school as well. Apparently, they've sent a bunch of people who are now in politics and political careers as well. So that's kind of what they're known for. Not football, they're known for more intellectual stuff. But yeah, you have Wisconsin in here. Do you want to explain why you have them? And I've already talked about why I don't have Wisconsin in here.
They should not be 10, but they're not that good.
Yeah.
I to be honest, I probably should have put Liberty in here, but yeah, I kind of regret it. But yeah, Wisconsin's one.
Then again,
game
I
is
am
just
also really
impressed.
good at overranking teams when they lose next week, so maybe I'll just save yourself the embarrassment.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to explain your reasoning for Wisconsin? Because what we saw in week 1, had they been able to play the last couple weeks, what we saw though in the one game was really impressive.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I guess that's kind of it for now as far as the top 10. And I just want to make some corrections on the Oregon-Stanford game, because I just pulled up the official stats. Oregon had 496 yards offense, total offense. Stanford had 413. Although Oregon really gassed Stanford in the run game, they had 269 yards of running offense. Stanford only 197, which is that was the difference. Really, Oregon was able to dominate in the run and therefore dominate total yards and time of possession. And so that's why they were able to win the game, because Stanford was really able to successfully move the ball. Obviously, this game was 900 plus total yards of offense for both sides included. That's a lot. There wasn't much defense play in this game. We had Oregon doing 7.5 yards per play average, Stanford doing 7.2 yards per play average. I'd like to watch college football nerds. Shout out to you guys in the very low likelihood that you're watching this video. But when you're, as I mentioned, when you're getting that usually over 6 yards per play average, you're going to be able to gas most defenses because you offensively will be able to make up for mistakes, any mistakes you make or good plays they make. You can just make up the yards very quickly. So this is an offensive shootout. Even though the scoreboard doesn't show it as much, there were just too many mistakes made for it to be a high scoring game. But it was a good game. And do you have any more closing thoughts before we close out the video?
Miami, we got Virginia Tech next week. That's not easy. We're 1.5 point underdogs.
I'm really surprised by that. I thought you guys would be favored in that game.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from Liberty or Virginia. I just said Liberty. Virginia Tech.
We don't exactly know what to expect from Virginia either. I mean, one week they lose to a terrible team, and then the next week they beat North Carolina.
Yeah, and for Miami, I feel like, and for Miami, Notre Dame pretty much ruined our ACC title game hopes, which does suck, but kind of might help us.
Yeah, hey, at least you don't have to get beat down by Clemson again.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, I want to thank you, Sir David, for coming on to the show. It was fun having you. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Have a great rest of the day. God bless.
God bless.